Alright, what's up people? I got a lot of shit going on here today, but what we're going to do is some Irish beef stew. And I'm going to try to make it short and sweet, so there's not going to be any bullshit here. So let's get started. First thing you're going to need to do is get 3 pounds of chuck roast. Alright, you're going to cut them up about that big in chunks, and then you're going to put them in the pot. This pot right here that I got going on. And we're going to sear our meat up. After that, we're going to take our meat out, transfer it to a plate, and do some other cool shit. So, while you're cooking these victuals up, you got to make sure you have a good beer. So, this is an Irish stew. Not an English stew, an Irish stew. Okay, while you're frying this stuff up, you want to season your meat too with some salt and some pepper. So tip number 1 is, took my meat out and you see all that moisture that's been released. We want to drain that off and then put a little bit more oil in there, because right now the meat is starting to more boil than it is, you know, seared. Alright, so once you got all your meat browned up, you're going to add your meat back to your pot along with 4 cloves of garlic, and then saute that up for about 3 minutes. Okay, after 3 minutes, you're going to add 1 6-ounce can of tomato paste. Okay, after you've added your tomato paste and stirred it up and did that for about 1 minute, you're going to add 1 can of Guinness beer. Alright, here's your beef stock. And you want to make sure that the meat and everything is covered. So if for some reason your meat's not covered, just add either a little bit more water or a little bit more beer. Alright, so after you've done that, you're going to add 2 bay leaves, which are in here. There's my spice packet. Okay, so that's 2 bay leaves. That's 2 teaspoons of dried thyme, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of pepper. Oh, so you're going to preheat your oven to 325, and let's see. So okay, we're going to kick the heat up on this, bring it to a boil. After it reaches a boil, we're going to turn the heat off. We're going to stick it in our oven at 325 for about 2 hours. And if your meat is not tender after 2 hours of being in the oven, let it go a little bit longer. You want your meat to be pretty tender. Then we're going to add the vegetables after that, and then probably do it for another hour. But I'm going to show you what we got to do to the vegetables before we put them in there. Alright, it's a lot of vegetables, so you may end up having to do it like I'm doing it in a couple of batches. Alright, our vegetables are getting close. You don't want to over saute them, but you see there's some brown bits and it's getting a gold color. That's what we want. Make sure you sprinkle it with a little bit of lightly with salt. Saute it up and get it about just like this. See these brown bits? That's going to do 2 things. It's going to give these vegetables some depth, and it's also giving it a head start on cooking. So now we're going to finish doing these. We're going to transfer it into the pot. Alright, so let's check our meat. Oh, it's pretty tender, so we're good enough. It's looking good. So now, we're going to add our vegetables. It didn't have much fat to skim off. We're going to stir those vegetables right on in there like that. After we get all our vegetables in here, we're going to stick it in the oven uncovered for 1 hour. Alright, we got all our vegetables in there, and you see how we don't really have a lot of liquid in there, so we're going to add a little bit more liquid. We're going to add some red wine to it, just a smidgen, maybe a 1/4 cup. Okay, so I added a little bit of wine. I added that 1/4 cup of wine, and it's still a little bit thick. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a little bit more beef broth, probably a 1/2 cup. Every time you make this, it may be a little different. It depends on how much water the meat releases, how much water the vegetables are going to release. So you may just have to, you know, you'll know how thin it is. You don't want it too thin, but you don't want it too thick. You want it somewhere in between. All right, so that's the consistency we're looking for. See, it's not too thick, but it's not too watery either. And like I said, the vegetables are going to release a little bit of liquid. So now it's going in the oven, 1 hour uncovered.
Filming?
All right, here we go. This is the finished product right here. My helper has finally decided to help me. So now we're going to taste it. Get a little carrot, a little parsnip. Here we go.
Should people do it?
Woo! Irish beef stew, baby. Do it!